Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our Why Try webinar today. It is fun to be back in the webinar chair. We're coming off our busiest time of year for us organizationally. August and September, end of July through August, beginning of September, we're always really busy. I'm on the road a ton doing trainings and conferences, etc. And so our webinars take a little bit of a break during that time, but we knew we wanted to do a back to school webinar once everybody was back and going, and we wanted to get a powerhouse panel of all-stars together, and I think we have that. So I'm excited to get things kind of kick off our webinar season again, and be back with you all. I see some of these names on here I haven't seen for a few months, and it's fun to hear from you again in the chat. So just a couple notes on the webinar, and then we'll try to get right into it. We're going to try to go for about an hour today. And for those that are new to these, we try to keep kind of a conversational tone to the webinar where we discuss relevant topics and concepts and strategies really for educators and mental health providers. We've been doing these for a couple of years now, and the webinars have turned into a really fun community where a lot of people show up regularly. Welcome back, those of you that have been on before, and the chat kind of becomes a fun place. Oh, Tim just logged in. Tim's a legend from Cincinnati. We have this fun community where people can share ideas in the chat and hopefully walk away with some motivation and some strategies from the discussion that we have as well. A couple notes, just a quick request from you all. The chat, I think, is a really fun place, but it's helpful if you'll make one simple adjustment to your chat settings where you type in a message. Right above where you type your message in, it says to, and then there's a little drop down arrow. If that doesn't say to everyone when you type your message, the panelists are the only ones that can see it. If it says to hosts and panelists, not everybody can see your message. So if you're willing, adjust your chat settings so that it says to everyone. And then after you've done that, everybody that's on here live, do me a favor and type an emoji into the chat that it describes how you are feeling right now at the beginning of the school year. How you feeling about the beginning of your school year? Hit us with an emoji in the chat that sums up where you're.
Somebody act crazy. It's like, which day though? Which day? Ooh, caution sign. Yes. Oh,
it's all of them. I love it. This is the emotional roller coaster.
It sure is.
Oh,
it sure is.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Appreciate you all being here. My name is Jason Johnson. I'm just updating my web name. There we go. My name is Jason Johnson. I represent the Why Try organization. We're the group that hosts these webinars. Organizationally, we've been around for about 20 years. We specialize in resilience and in teaching the skills and the sources of resilience. And we work through training and curriculum and online resources with educators and mental health professionals. And it's just a really fun community to be a part of. So for the webinar today, we wanted to do a back to school themed webinar, just tips for starting the school year with energy and resilience and coming out, getting a strong start. We're at a really interesting and unique time, I think, in education, and it can be really fun, but it can also feel really overwhelming, I think, right now. And so I wanted to have a couple of my friends join me on the webinar today. So I've got two friends on here. I'll introduce our panelists that, in my opinion, are absolute experts and legends in the field. I'm really grateful that they were able to set aside some time to join us, and really look forward to you all getting to hear from them a little bit. First, we have perhaps a familiar face for some of you with Ashley Wright. Ashley's a passionate educator, student advocate, currently works as a school counselor in Conroe ISD, Texas, been an educator for 16 years, currently employed in the Conroe Independent. Is 16 the right number? Did I get that right? 19.
Yeah, well, I'm in my 16th year. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Recently received the 2019 Elementary School Counselor of the Year for Texas School Counselor Association and served on the TSCA board as an emerging leader, was also an ASCA finalist, no big deal. And last but not least, loves school counseling. Ashley, I think this is your 5th or 6th time being on the webinar. Welcome back, and it's so good to have you.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Then in addition to Ashley, we have Ann Hughes, a Texas resident, brings to the table extensive experience as a principal, as a district administrator over student intervention and social learning for Sanger ISD, also in Texas, ready to share some secrets to starting the school year with unbridled enthusiasm and energy. I will also say, on a personal note, I have presented at a conference in Texas with Ashley and with Ann, and gotten to know Ann a little bit at a professional level. Ann is a legend when it comes to dealing with some of your most difficult to reach students and some of your most difficult behavior issues, and has just an incredible wealth of experience that Ann brings to the table. And so glad you could be on here as well. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be on here too. I need to hire you as my promoter, Jason. I didn't know half that stuff about me.
Well, it's yeah, I'll be your hype man. Let's go. And then I am Jason Johnson, represent the Wright organization. Prior to working here at Wright as the director of training and research, I was a school psychologist working in public education in the state of Utah. Worked for the largest school district here in our state. Really feel really fortunate about what I get to do, and the opportunity I have to work with educators and mental health professionals throughout the country now. And so anyway, I'm excited. I hope this feels like a fun discussion that you're looking forward to. And I know I am. So let's get right into it. Let's just start off by having you talk. I want to hear from both of you just a little bit about what your current role is within your organization. Just tell us a little bit about what you've been focusing on and kind of what you're targeting this upcoming year. Let's go Ashley first and then Ann.
All right, so hello everyone. I am currently a school counselor in Conroe, Texas. As Jason knows, I am really, really, really passionate about school counseling. It is my heart. And everything that I do. And so here in Conroe, I do have an amazing partner that our population is currently pre-K through 6th grade. So we have 8 different grade levels in one campus. And so, part of our, school data priorities is really to build a positive culture and establish school connectedness, because it's really, really important to drive our campus principal's goals and her visions. We have an amazing principal this year that is very solid and really just trying to resurface the foundation for, how do we, want to respond to our students? How do we want to respond with each other within our staff? And then also, how can we connect also with our community? And so with our comprehensive counseling program that my partner and I are both implementing, one of our goals is really to also decrease the number of discipline referrals. And, we look at that data and we look at, how things were, of course, last year, and then moving forward for this year, how can we decrease that? How can we become more transparent to where our community understands the role of a school counselor and how we implement things, and how the different positions, whether it is an administrator, whether it's an instructional coach, whether it's a teacher, where it's a paraprofessional aide, or whom have you, all staff, we work together in unison and we're on the same accord. So that is kind of currently what we are doing right now. We are really excited about keeping that going on.
I love it. And you know what? we kind of make the rules here on this. So I'm going to ask you, name your partner by name, call out Rachel. She deserves a little love. I've witnessed the work you do. I've witnessed the work you do in person. It's really, really, really impressive.
Yes, Rachel James. She is this is her second year of school counseling, and she is already rocking it off. So it's really like an important, again, I'll say back for Rachel, when we sit and we're on the same page. So we have, of course, different grade levels. Like I have the odd grades this year, she has the even. So we have the luxury within our school to travel with our families all the way up to 6th grade. But the kids see us as one, sees us as, one cohesive unit, along with our AP partners. We have a strong admin team this year. So we are moving and grooving. And our theme, I have to tell you, it's from Rita Pearson, Be a Champion. So we play the Carrie Underwood song at the start of the morning. Every morning, the kids know it, even the ludicrous part at the afternoon. It's awesome.
And I can hear Rita Pearson's voice in my head saying passionately, every child deserves a champion.
Yes.
I love it. Awesome. And tell us a little bit about what you're up to, what your role is there, what your focus is on right now.
Well, it's year 39 for me. And I'm just as excited as year 1, if not more. So I get to work with 26 different schools in 5 districts. And I get to work with a special day school as well. Mm-hmm. And I provide support and coaching for the teachers and brainstorming. And I do a lot of training. And we also are really focused on a multi-systemic tiered support, MTSS, for behavior. And this will be our 3rd year doing it. And we do universal screenings for behavior and mental health twice a year. And also we use the PASS survey, which is a student survey online. And then we put that data together and we meet and really try to identify, who needs support and why and what type of support, but making sure that the kid's voice is included in those discussions. So like Ashley said, connectedness is critical. And I like to talk for adults and kids, for humans in general. I believe we need what I refer to as the 3 C's. We need to feel competent. And that includes academically, or if we're working at our job, emotionally, socially. We need to feel connected, and we need to feel contributing, like there's something bigger than us. We're contributing to a whole. So our focus is on having interventions that support the 3 C's, and on how can we facilitate that across our campuses. Our initiative this year is the You Matter initiative. And it's working with awareness of mental health and to reduce the stigma. And we have the fourth Monday of every month is You Matter Monday. And we all have green shirts with You Matter. And there's different activities that myself and the counselors are developing. And we're hoping to have a big one in the spring and a big one in the fall, but I don't exactly know what they are yet. So family engagement is also a key. The other part is I went ahead and did focus groups with all the parents and forums and with students and surveys with teachers over the summer, and said, go for it. Tell us what you think of behavior, discipline, social emotional learning, mental health. And there were quite a few themes came up. But one of the things that I keep hearing is that students have lost some of the skills to resolve some of their own problems, that everything is huge and they expect a parent or a teacher or someone to come in and kind of solve it. So I'm delighted to tell you that we are in the process of setting up a youth court at our high school, and also peer mediation grades 4 through 12. So we're just at the very beginning of that, where we can empower students with leadership skills, but also with the capacity to work through and problem solve some of the minor stuff, which will free up the principal to do instructional leadership, but even more importantly, the counselor to really work with those students with the most serious needs. That's all we're doing.
No, it's a little bit of light work. My goodness. Oh my gosh, that's inspiring to hear. Now, Anne, I should have asked your permission beforehand, but I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit because I suspect I know the answer. Typically on these, we put our panelists' email addresses up at the end, and I suspect. So I've done a lot of these, and in an hour, we rarely get to dig as deep as some people would like us to into some of these issues that come up. And I can guarantee when people started hearing about the screeners that you were doing, the focus groups that you were doing, and this youth court that you put together, people may have questions. So I just want to put it out there. We will put up contact information at the end. And so if you have some specific questions about anything that either of our panelists share, these are very generous humans with their time. Reach out. They will be happy to hear from fellow educators asking about any of these specifics. And I know, Ashley, I know you've gotten some of those emails over the time from previous webinars we've done. So, okay, well, let's talk specifically about the key to starting things off. I was just doing the math in my head, and I don't want to make anybody feel over experienced, but we have combined in this panel over 60 years of experience in education. And so you've had some experience in starting school years. In your opinion, I know for me in public ed, I was always flooded with a lot of emotion as I would start every new school year. It was almost like I was back to being a student. I would have some anxiety, some nervousness, but also some excitement and some real enthusiasm. Wondering if you could share, in your opinion, what are some simple tips or strategies or mental strategies or just anything in general to starting off a school year strong? Let's start with Anne, and then we'll go throw it back over to Ashley.
All righty. Starting off a school year strong is important, obviously, with the staff and for the students. And one of the things that I was a principal for 18 years at an alternative school. And one of the things that we really focused on was how do we make the beginning of the year more than just logistics? Sure, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of logistics, there's routines, procedures, and you need to teach them to the students. But how do we also have people establish short-term and long-term goals? How do we create a family atmosphere? How do we get everybody's input on celebrations and how to celebrate the small stuff? I think sometimes we wait on just the big stuff. Really, I learned the hard way. I'm going to write a book someday, things I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way that if it can be in a memo or it can be in an email, do it that way. And then save the meetings for some of the more meaningful, celebratory, and supportive kind of things. You know, our staff, it's tough out there. It's tough to work in public ed right now. They're getting a lot of pressure from parents here in Texas. It's very, very political right now, and they're under a lot of pressure. They're under a microscope, and we're seeing shortages like never before. So really making sure that they know they have voice and choice, and having administrators make sure, just like we want teachers to give students as much choice as they can, we want, you know, with administrators to have them give adults choice and voice in meaningful ways.
Love it. Really, really wise advice. Ashley, what are your thoughts?
No, I wanted Anne in my pocket. I'm like, yes.
Well, I want you in mine, so we'll figure something out.
I would say, just to echo, and I'm actually doing a podcast series on this. Like, I live by 3 words: passion, purpose, and position. Because at the end of the day, you know, every school year may look different. And sometimes leadership may look different. Staff may look different. And we are all in different positions and in different areas all across the nation, even within our state. And one of the things to realize is that when it comes to you, is to have that reflection piece that even when things are hard or even when things are tough, like really, really get to your why. Like, what are you most passionate about being an educator? Like, just forget all the white noise. If you were to take everything away, what is it that you love about teaching? What is it that you love about being a principal? What is it that you love about being an instructional coach, being able to build those relationships? And when you write those type of things out, or when you start to, really reflect on that, and you have this burst of energy or this smile, or this giggle, that comes inside of you, like really, really dwell and think and focus and concentrate on what is that, because that's going to move you when things get hard. That's going to move you to continue to have grit. That's going to empower you to realize next your purpose. Why were you called to do with what it is that you do? And when you understand yourself as having this unlimited potential as a human, in the positions that you serve, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like educators, like, we are superheroes. Like, there are so many different aspects and different positions and different techniques and so many things that make us stand alone be so different. So while, yes, public ed and even private school, I just think the whole school system, is everyone zooming in on us, this is the most exciting time to really be intentional and tap in. So not only understanding, like, what is it that I love to do, but then why am I doing what I need to do? Like, why have I been called, to this unique position? And then last but not least is your position in itself. How are you going to continue to be that cheerleader, that voice for those that are unheard and unseen, even from those that are seen and heard? How are you going to be that advocate piece? How are you going to be that team player? And so when you focus in on, at the end of the day, it's all about our kids, and I'm going to do those things that I can control. The things that I can't control, I'm going to stay lifted because I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm going to do it because I know that I've been called to do it. And then in my position, I'm just going to do it to the best of my ability. That's enough to continue to strengthen you through the remainder of the school year. And I know I said a lot because I can get real philosophical, but it's like those three things, because y'all know, like, we're getting into the heavy months. October's just around the corner. And so we are like, yeah, so excited the kids are back. But then there's going to be those times where crucial conversations may happen. Maybe a student to student, maybe a staff to parent, but when you center back on those three things, you are literally able to be the most resilient. And remember, resilient is a skill that you got to continue to work at. It doesn't matter how many years you've been in education, how many years you've been working, whether you're a professional or non-professional in that position. But like I said, those three things are like just excellent things to remember as you start.
Really good. I'm taking notes. We got the 3 C's and the 3 P's so far. We can add in White Tri's 3 R's, and we've got a good chunk of the alphabet taken care of. So I'm wondering if maybe you could highlight for our audience here, what are some of your big areas of focus this year? I know you may have shared a little bit, but wondering if you could just elaborate a little bit more on what you're really focusing on, some of those big picture ideas with your kiddos. I know right now you've both alluded to we are at this kind of unique crossroads time in education, and some of the challenges we have been there lingering for a long time, and then I think others are pretty unique to the time that we find ourselves in right now culturally. And so wondering how you've positioned some of your big picture themes and focuses for the upcoming school year. Let's start Ashley and then throw it back to Anne.
So like I said before, I'm in love with my champion principal. I mean, she's kind of honed it down to understanding what our campus improvement plan is and making sure everybody, especially our core team, understands what our data priorities are. And so in your unique positions, whether it's, your instructional coaching, where you're looking at accountability and you're looking at, academic development, helping at that end, school counseling, are there some social emotional things happening on that end? Like I said, for us, Rachel and I, trying to lower and decrease the number of discipline referrals. And then also we have culture and climate. I think it's important, for us to focus on all of those areas, but then also the acknowledgement of all of our roles and making sure everyone has a clear understanding within the building itself of who we are and how we're able to serve. And it starts by us being core and admin team, being servant leaders, but then also getting that message, that delivery out to our teachers to make sure that they understand. So when you start to talk about, schools that have PBIS and, different interventions in place, we want to make sure that those policies and procedures are cohesiveness across grade levels and everyone has a sense of understanding. The next piece is our community, the things that we have within that we are working in within our campus. Like I'll just throw out there when it comes to, looking at our academic data, our achievement data and our attendance, we want to be transparent with our families to understand like this is where we are. But I love her leadership because she's like, this is where we are, but it doesn't stop here. It's all about the growth. And it's all about taking the time to explain to our families what they see, what they hear, and letting them know also, you're not alone. We're going to help you. We're going to coach this with you. So I am at a Title I campus, and I had a previous conversation with Jason. I love my campus because it is diverse in the aspect of, though it's a low Title I, we have a bit of the haves and the have-nots. So it's like this clash of affluence and low income that merges together. But at the end of the day, all means all. And so we are, constantly striving regardless of status, regardless of the academic data that we receive or the behavioral data that we receive. We're just trying to make sure there is some consistency and cohesiveness. Last but not least, specifically for our comprehensive counseling program, that character curriculum, within our Texas model for comprehensive counseling programs is so important that not only does the principal, the leader, but also the core team, everybody's on the same page as into how are we driving this curriculum to make sure everyone's understanding the lessons that are involved. Right now, I'm excited because when we have our core teams, when we're Rachel and I are doing these lessons, we want to take those posters using Y-Try as well as other resources. We want that to be back at the core team. Like when kids are in conflict or going through something, please reference this. And that's been really helpful with our APs. And so I thought, oh, I have it here, Jason. I'm just going to show them a sneak peek. So like when we do our lessons and we do certain things, right, we have a binder ring that we actually give to our principals with just different posters and things that we've done, because it's not about punitive consequences. It's about helping them to understand you made a choice, something happened, what could be done better. Yes, the consequences will be there, but I think it's empowering, not just only for school counselors to walk our kids through. We want our leaders to walk kids through. Guess what? We want our teachers to walk kids through. And so if everyone's speaking the same language, again, think about how many adults that kids see on a daily basis within the school. This person saying this way, this person does it this way. If we're all speaking the same language when conflict happens, and kind of going back on what Ann said, I think we as a nation and as a state and as a school system will become more preventative instead of so reactive. Because right now it's crisis, 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 crisis. But we need to set our kids on a stronger foundation. And so that's just kind of where we are right now. And then parent involvement, which I'll discuss later. Excellent, trying to get some programs together for parents to feel like they can be a part of the experience as well.
I love it. Great insight. Ann.
We have a few different areas of focus. Over the last several years, I've been trying to sell the concept of having a period or some minutes set aside during the day to focus on different social emotional skills. And it's happened. This year, every one of our campuses in the district, once a week, are giving 30 minutes to specific social emotional. So now we're working with a group and with, you know, with representatives, teachers, students, to help come up with, you know, the teachers, the last thing we need is for them to think that this is just another thing they have to do, another thing on their plate. That's why they absolutely love Why Try. Not just because it's street smart, not just because of the music, that's all a part of it, the journal, but basically it's ready to go.
Yeah.
So we're going to be using it pre-K through 12, at least 30 minutes a week. And going back, as Ashley said, having common language around conflict. Because we need I don't want to say standard, but we need a problem-solving model when conflict occurs that goes through the steps, like she mentioned. What happened? What were my choices? What could I have done differently? Who did I affect? What can I do to remedy the situation? Or what will I do next time I encounter a situation like this? And when staff have the same lingo, it's powerful because now they have a plan. And a lot of times, some of the situations that arise, like power struggles or some of the not healthy arguing back and forth, it's because they never had a plan in terms of how to address arguing, how to address kids talking back. So we've really put a lot of work into training and working with staff on tools to use. You know, when kids says crazy stuff, these are some options. Role-playing real situations. And then, you know, that we'll have that consistent procedure at all the campuses. We're excited because we're relatively small. We're smaller than Conroe, but we're excited because it means when our students transition to each campus, the same problem-solving model will be used. So they'll be exposed to it for the entire, you know, there'll be developmental little tweaks based on whether they're early childhood or whether they're high school, but the bottom line concept will remain consistent. The second thing we're looking at is really, we feel like we're onto a good thing with the MTSS behavior. We've gotten really good data on kids, you know, that we put support plans in and that they now have less office referrals and less time out of the classroom, more academics. But one of the things is we're not as good as we should be on progress monitoring. My goal would be to find a way to integrate MTSS behavior meetings with the MTSS academics, because I don't think you can separate them. I think, you know, behavior comes sometimes from frustration with academics, sometimes you fall behind, but I don't think you can separate them. And we usually end up talking about the same students or a lot of the same students. So I think we need to be looking at the entire child, not just, oh, today we're going to meet about behavior. Tomorrow we're going to meet about attendance. Next week we'll meet about their grades. Piggybacking on what Ashley said about family and community engagement. We were recently lucky enough to send 7 people through a training called Parent Cafes. And some of those were parents. And we're going to be hosting once every month an online parent cafe, with the parents being the ones who facilitate this session for other parents. And then, you know, one of the staff would be on kind of to introduce, to open up, but really it's the parents facilitating for parents. And we're pretty excited about that. We've been very lucky with the community partnerships we formed, and we have lots of, we're able to connect kids with medical, counseling, dental through our partnerships, free medical counseling and free dental. So we're doing a lot with basic needs. I think one of the big things also is staff mental health, staff wellness, because it is very difficult. And especially when I was at the alternative school, I believe there's almost like vicarious trauma if you get cursed out enough, or, you know, your class turns on its head often enough, that has an impact on you. So we're really we're looking to get some yoga classes, some fitness classes that would be voluntary, obviously. And our district has committed to a plan where every staff member, regardless whether they take the district insurance or not, are eligible to get up to 8 counselling sessions with a counsellor of their choice through telehealth. I mean, there's a list, but there's quite a lot of choices for them or for any of their family members. So those are kind of the main focus.
That's awesome. Those are really, really significant. Everything both of you mentioned. Just another plug for Parent Cafe. I've actually participated in that a little bit. I did a training for a group up in Oregon, and they invited me with our resilience material to come in and help participate and lead out in a parent discussion. The way they did it up there is they held it at the community pantry, and they offered a dinner to try to get people there. And then it was a location where parents were going to be showing up anyway. And I was really impressed. The resources seemed really cool. The discussions were really productive. Had some really memorable interactions with parents that showed up for around that. And then I combined our resilience material in with it and let out on a discussion. I did like a 20-minute parent workshop on helping parents be more resilient. It was really fun though. There's some great resources out there. So I think that leads into the next direction I want to go. Man, time always goes so fast. So I'm going to combine, let's see. I'm going to combine two questions. Number one, I want to be thinking a little bit about this idea of resilience, and just curious what both of your approaches to making resilience a focus or an initiative within your buildings and districts has been. But then I also want to have you brag up a little bit. You've shared some of your big picture ideas, but I'm wondering, I know people show up to these webinars, I think sometimes really interested and hungry for strategies or ideas, things that other educators are doing. And I'm wondering if you can brag up maybe a couple of the things that you've been involved in, put into place, or have going this year that might be something that other educators might be interested in trying to replicate at some level where they're at locally. Let's start with Anne, and then we'll throw it back over to Ashley.
Okay. We've had a lot of success, and we want to expand upon some of our tiered interventions for our students that need tier 2 or tier 3 mental health and behavioral support. Some of the ones that have been particularly successful include check-in, check-out, or some form of mentoring, where students get to check in with a favorite adult morning and check out in the afternoon. We've also had success with meaningful jobs in the school. A lot of times, we'll say, well, give them a job. They need to feel important. They need the attention, but they can see true BS jobs. So it has to be, you're lucky if even a kindergartner will do carry the empty folder to the teachers so you can carry the empty one back. So I think, we've been very, very creative. Like, we have a horticulturist, and he rents plants to staff members. And then he goes around and he checks the soil for moistness and water it and prunes the little dead pieces. And he's the horticulturist on staff.
And that's a student?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Who needed a job. That's a meaningful job. We have an attendance clerk. We had a guy who's always coming out of the classrooms wanting to know who's where, who's there. He's just all very busy. And instead of, beating our head against a wall, trying to constantly tell him, go back to class, we made him the attendance clerk. He's there with a clipboard, and as people come in, he marks them off. And we've done that in a few schools. They tell me, Dr. Hughes, they rat out what teacher is late. It's pretty funny. We also, so meaningful jobs. Probably one of the most exciting pieces, we opened a student-run grocery store. And we opened that, 2-3 years ago. It got a lot of media attention, but it's an actual grocery store inside our school. And it's facilitated by the students, run by the students, and they do inventory, they stack the shelves, they do the order. And then on a Tuesday night, we open it for an hour to the community. And they volunteer and come and do that. That has been huge. And Jason, I can send you one or two of the clips from the news pieces that you could put, if you want to put somewhere.
Yeah, please do. We'll be happy to share some of those.
But yeah, leadership, meaningful jobs, anything we can do. Oh, we opened chill zones and gotta move spaces.
Ooh.
And we did them in 3 schools. And what we did was they were lucky enough to have rooms. And got a chill zone is a lot of sensory type stuff. And it has a little, you can crawl in a little area, weighted blankets, there's dancing snowballs now that have lights on them. That was new to me. But there's all kinds of stuff in there, and the lights, the muted lighting. And then we also have the gotta move room, and we put in a bicycle, a treadmill, a trampoline, different things like that. And we're really working with the students to identify, okay, right now I'm mad or I'm sad. And when you're mad or sad, what do you like to move, or do you like to be on your own and people leave you alone? What helps you? Because that's a life skill. That's what adults do. And then they go use one of those rooms, and then we go through the reflection and processing. It has really helped immensely. We have a QR code that the person with them just snaps on their phone, fills it out. So we look at the data regularly. We look at the office referrals using a Swiss program out of the University of Oregon. It's with PBIS, and it's phenomenal for breaking down. People will say, oh, we do that. We enter it into our PEAM system. And that's got one purpose, and that's to report to the state and the government so they can decide if you're a dangerous school. But it's the big things go in there. Well, we need more timely current office referral data that we can use as part of our ongoing staffing and decision making. And that's what Swiss does. It allows you to enter and analyze by group, by student, by specific group. So those are kind of some of the things we're doing.
Awesome. So good. Ashley, tell us a little bit about what you've been working on. And I hope this is just me trying to project what I want. I hope that you do mention the Watchdog program somewhere there, because
I'm so excited.
You're doing some really cool stuff too. Tell us.
I'll just go ahead and start off with that. So we are really big, like I said, my principal, on building school connectedness and establishing strong, positive culture. And so in her new leadership for this year, and in my previous experience, as Jason knows, I've opened a campus before and built an amazing Watchdogs program. So if you've never heard of it, it is a national program that is, it's Watchdogs, dogs abbreviated for Dads of Great Students. And so my relationship, obviously, with that particular company and organization is that it is all about positive male leaderships being able to be involved in the schools. And so you don't have to be a dad. You could be a positive male figure, grandpa. The kids laugh at me. I'm like, you're Theo, you're a boy, like it doesn't matter, whoever. But of course, there are some things that policy and procedure, they'll have to, do the volunteer and the background check. But this is a time for men to really become a part of the school system and a part of the school connectedness, because number one, we have a lot of kids that are fatherless. And then number two, the research shows extensive data on just the impact of male leadership. I mean, that is just there. And so when you look at schools, and even me going into my 16th year, you normally have things like PTA and PTO, where some dads feel like, oh, that's a mom thing. What I love about this program, I just got goosebumps, is just how our kids take on just to male leadership and influence and mentorship. It is just something miraculous when kids are able to connect in ways that I just feel like sometimes, cliche, us educators are mostly women, that they see, they just respond differently. And so when I have seen fathers in our community come out into the classroom, spend a whole day in the classroom, really connect with the teachers, I mean, it just creates an incredible vibe. And so we're having our kickoff night. This is, we opened my campus last year, so this is year 2 for us, and we're actually going to start the program. And when you start the program, because every campus does it differently, and I know we're almost out of time, but you want to start with a top dogs team. And so I would challenge any of y'all, if y'all want to know, it's a nationwide program, reach out to Jim Walters, but he will tell you that it is so important to, when you have a committee of strong men that you may already connect with on a daily basis. And so I have 4 amazing dads that I've kind of voluntold that they were going to be on the top dogs team. And really cheerleader and just venture on for men, connecting with other men to really have this going. And so, like, I'm proud. I just glanced at my screen to look at our numbers for tonight, because we're having our Dad and Kids Pizza Night, where all of our dads come and they can eat pizza and fellowship with their kids and find out more about the program and sign up. And so we are currently at about 270 people. And so I am like, I'm so ready. Like, I'm so excited. Sorry. It's like the highlight of the year. And then last but not least, we will be doing this year, like, just different testimonials from dads. In my previous experience, I had one dad, he never did watch dogs. He was like, yeah, it's kind of weird, you know, like, haven't been in the schools in a long time. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, y'all do a lot. I'm like, yes, sir. And he said that when he was out on the field, because we'll have different opportunities for the dads to do lunch or recess, because sometimes dads can't take the whole day, or they're opening car doors and greeting kids in the morning. He said, I will never forget the amazing feeling when there was just children that I didn't even know, they were calling him dad, you know. And it's like that rock star moment that you can be a champion dad for all kids. And that's what we say that the program is about. The, you know, luxury is that, yes, you get to be with your kid for a little bit, but then also you get to be a father for all of us, even including the staff. So we are doing that, and we are excited about launching that program. And then, as always, with our curriculum lesson, just one last thing, we are embarking on making sure that we cohesively do morning meetings in the morning. And so we're tying in the character, we're tying in our counseling lessons, the Why Try lessons. And so when kids first get in the morning, again, preventative instead of so reactive. Our campus-wide does morning meetings at the same time every morning. And I love walking our whole admin team. We walk the halls, and we just love when they're all sitting on the carpet. Even our 6th graders, they're with their teacher, they're vibing, connecting, just even before the day starts. And so it is doing some amazing things with that school connectedness.
Love it. This is so good. Oh my goodness. So we're running short time here, but I think we can sneak at least one more question in. Oh, Tim, why is Tim out of Cincinnati sharing some info? Thank you for sharing that, Tim. Tim, a former panelist on our webinar as well. Great educator. So let me try to sneak in one more question, because you both have so much good information. One of the things I wanted to talk about was relationship building. And, you know, it's a thing I rarely get pushback on. Most educators, it's fairly intuitive for them to say, yes, relationships are important. Relationships impact our ability to motivate and do our job. But one of the challenges I think we have, especially at the beginning of a school year, is how do you come in and develop relationships quick, if that's possible? So I'm wondering if each of you could just share kind of an abbreviated version of either 1 or 2 strategies that educators might be able to utilize to try to help enhance their ability to develop student relationships here at the beginning of the year. And then at that point, that probably gets us right towards the end. And then I'll give you our final thoughts question. Let's go, Ashley, and then Ann.
Hey, so real quick, Jason, you already know, like, I think we do a good job on creating, but it's hard. The maintaining part gets hard, because especially after kids start to honeymoon, it's like, what is this? This is like new behavior. Like, it's stressing me out. So I'll leave everyone in the room with this: connect before correct. Connect before correct. So empowered. Like, I see you, I hear you. It goes along with the surrendering the one up. It is so imperative to do that. Don't break that relationship just based on something that is happening, and it's really seeing the person before you, the child before you, the staff member before you. So when you're, creating these relationships and maintaining them, I would say connect before correct.
I love it. What I hear in that is a call for intentionality. When I do workshops fairly frequently on improving relationships. And one of the things I always stress is the importance of intentionality, and the way that I frame it to educators, because again, like sometimes it feels so intuitive or so obvious. You can almost get eye rolls like, yeah, I get it. Relationships are important. The way I'll put it in perspective sometimes is like, raise your hand if you have more stuff to do than you have time to do it. Right. And every educator will raise their hand. That's the life of an educator. We have all these boxes we have to check. Some of them have legal implications. Some of them have implications on our ability to do our job and maintain employment. And so these are important boxes, but the boxes can crowd out the other best practices sometimes, things like relationships. And so if we're not intentional, so sometimes the correction may be mandatory. We have to respond a certain way to a certain thing. But if we're not intentional with that correction early on, it undermines our ability to really do what we're going to do long term. I love that. I wrote that
1000%.
one down. Connect before correct. And
one of the things that we have found particularly helpful is working with staff to equip them with some of the experiential games. And you have some of those in the Why Try that we've used. And, having fun with their class, getting to know them in unique ways and helping them to get to know each other. So, we did one recently where you just divided a piece of paper in 4 and you had to put the name you want to be called, G-rated, your favorite comfort food, your favorite movie, and where would you travel if you won $1 million travel voucher. And everyone, filled that out. And then we had a certain amount of time to go around and exchange it. Different things where you learn about their interests in a non-threatening way. You're not right up in their face, second day of school. So tell me, what do you like so I can talk to you about it? And they're learning about each other. So it's building community. Relationships, I say, are like flowers or seeds. They need watering. You can plant them, you can go all in on them at the beginning, but they're going to need watering and tending to over the year. I think sometimes as educators, I've been guilty of it. We feel we have to solve something. If a kid is feeling sad or feeling mad, or we have to solve it. And a lot of times we just need to be there. And I think that's one of the hardest things to do, just to be there and share the space.
To me, you just described one of my favorite terms, which is compassion. Like, compassion doesn't have to solve or take away this thing from you that you're experiencing. Sometimes compassion is just sitting with another human and expressing a desire to just alleviate their suffering a little bit. Just in that moment of connection, and absolutely love it. All right. So here's the question that I want to end with, because we are out of time. You all, by the way, brought it today. Really, really, really great job. The question I want to end with, it's no secret we are at I think maybe one of the most stressful times for educators we've ever seen. And reference the politicization of education. We have a lot of challenges dealing with all sorts of things in our communities. A lot of our communities might even have parents that are questioning how we're doing our job as educators. One of the luxuries that I have in what I do is I get to go out and sit in communities throughout the country and sit with educators and listen to them and learn from them. And every time I do that, I walk away with a little bit of hope. And I think despite the complexities and the unique challenges that we have right now, there is a lot to give us hope. And so I'm curious if each one of you can just share one thing that's giving you hope right now as an educator, and then we'll wrap things up. While you do that, I'm going to put up a QR code as well as your contact information. If anybody wants to get a hold of any of our panelists, I've got email addresses up. Ashley, I don't have your social handles on there, but if you want to throw them in the chat, feel free. Ashley is very generous sharing some of her best practices on her social media, and it's definitely worth a follow if you're interested in that. But let's start with Anne, and then we'll throw it over to Ashley. Tell us something that's giving you hope in education right now.
What's given me hope is seeing the young people who are entering the profession. We hear so often about, oh, nobody wants to teach, but yet, we have student teachers and observers and first-year teachers, and when we really invest in them and water them, that gives me hope that we have a whole generation ready to take on the challenge, and they're out there, and their level of care and compassion and heart is huge.
I love it. That's absolutely one of the things that is inspiring to me as well. When I see the people that are still getting into education, it still attracts the best humans on the planet. Ashley.
I just would say, like, when I see, the gains from kids that I used to, even when I was a teacher and they're in high school, and they just still remember just the words of wisdom and just still recall the lessons, still recall the impact, that gives me hope that, there isn't just this lost generation. Their smiles, their resilience. I just got emotional. Just thought about one. He's a senior in high school, and he's one of my babies that we just had some challenging times, and I've always stayed connected. But just his grit, and just to remember that life is still beautiful, and just you can be resilient. It's just the way that you respond to certain situations. And when I see kids, even as little as kindergartens, really try to understand how their mindsets and the way that they think influences their feelings and shows up in their actions, to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, if we all just continue to be champions, if we all just continue to be united, even when things hard, if we take the time to just connect and get on the same page, we could really flip some things around. And last but not least, I know someone, and sometimes we have naysayers like, yeah, this world is just a lost cause. But I'm like, I wonder how the people felt back then, years ago, when some of the greatest, most influential leaders that we know, I start to think of, Martin Luther King, like I start to think of just even past presidents, like, what if they just would have just stopped? But we don't stop. So that gives me hope, because I'm like, it's just a period of time that we're in. If we continue to stay connected, if we continue to work together, we really can change this, the trajectory of what's happening right now. And I actually think it is starting to change, and we need to give ourselves a bit more credit, especially coming from COVID. That's just my personal opinion. But I do believe that we're on the rise. It's the best time to be in education right now, because we model excellence. And as we continue to show the world that, and we can continue to lean in to try to get understanding, not to respond just because we are professional educators and we get them on board, to hear them, validate them, but say, hey, here's another way. I think we're on our way. So that's what keeps me hopeful.
Absolutely. I agree with it all. You guys give me goosebumps just listening to you. For me, it's similar to what you said. It really is, in most cases for me, the connection and building and expanding communities with other educators. We're all dealing with some unique challenges. We're all fighting whatever local battles it may feel like we are. But man, this busy month that I referenced, that's always a busy time of year for us here at Wright, was it always energizes me. And I sit down with educators and we try to have really honest, really open conversations about difficult, complex challenges, and then figure out solutions and ways to approach them. And I am just continually impressed at the people that are still entering this field and willing to do it and willing to share their ideas and willing to collaborate. And it really gives me a lot of hope. And, I see incredible humans that are willing to lead with their heart and be vulnerable with their students. And I think, the kids are in really good hands. And so just big thank you to all of you. I'm excited to get back into webinar season. I cannot imagine that we could have started with a greater webinar offering than this. You all were very generous with ideas and with programs and with resources. Please take us at our word and reach out to our panelists if you have any questions. And otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you. Let's give a big virtual round of applause to our panelists. Thank you, Ashley and Ann. Now we need to figure out how to get you together in person in Texas. We need to find a central meeting point. I for sure want to be there. And then a huge thank you to all of our attendees, all of you that showed up and brought great commentary and comments to the comments or to the chat room. Hope you all have a great school year. I'm going to play us out with some music.